Good morning and welcome to Wednesday Wake Up. We're delighted to have another guest instructor and speaker today. Today we have Ann Joy, who's head of our relocation department, and she's going to be telling us about the wonderful Affinity program that we have. And this is available to all agents, not just somebody doing a relocation transfer or anything like that. So I'm going to close the camera down now that you've seen that Ann is really here.
And I'm having a good hair day.
Yay! Yay! So stop showing the screen. No, I don't want to do that.
It's very, it's very independent thinker.
There we go. So there's the camera. So I'm going to set up the presentation to go. And it's all yours, Ann. Oops, hang on one second. I need to close down that little window there so it's not in the way. And there you go. And all you need to do, yes, you should just be able to do that to move it along. So it's all yours.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I have some real faces to stare at, so yay, that's yay, wonderful.
Those are real, they're just out there in radio.
It's just really, really odd for me. Okay, so this morning I am presenting something we came across several years ago, back when companies were reducing benefits. You know, that they were looking for any way to cut, so all the extra benefits were kind of going away. So we were looking at how can we approach companies, go into companies and maybe offer them something for free that would benefit us, benefit them, benefit their employees. And we actually came across this program called Employee Home View. It's an Affinity program. What that means, it's a member-based benefit program. And so I'm going to kind of give you an overview of how this works. What I want you to start thinking, though, is do you know anybody in an HR department of a company? Do you know anybody maybe owns their own company? And I don't want you to think locally necessarily. That's great if they are locally. You can even think nationally. You know, if you have a cousin or you have a college friend or anybody in Arkansas, Nebraska, California, it doesn't matter, that is in HR, that owns their own company, that might be a decision maker, in other words, for a company that might be interested in hearing this. Don't just consider this something that you have to work with here locally, and I'll explain that later. So I'm just going to kind of go through, this is an actual PowerPoint presentation that was provided to us by Employee Home View. Employee Home View, the administrator is based in Columbus, Ohio. I have actually met the CEO of the company, Renita. She actually came here with me, and we did a presentation at the Indiana State HR convention a couple years ago, where you had a bunch of HR people wandering around in a vendor area. And that's why, for those of you online, sorry, I have an actual roll-up banner here we created that can be used. So if you even in your mind you're thinking, maybe you'd like to do something with an HR program, or if a small business outlet, if you are interested in doing a booth sometime or a presentation to a company or a friend, this is available for you to use. I'll also show you other things that you can use. But they actually provided this PowerPoint presentation to give you an idea of what the program is, and it's even something you can take and tweak and use to take into to meet with a friend or a coworker or a recommendation. And in fact, Geeta even took some of this information and created her own personalized piece that she can take in. So, if you want to kind of see how Geeta worked it and tweaked it to make it something of her own that she can take in, you can certainly speak to her about that. So the best part about this, and you can see it on my stand-up, you can't really see it there, is that the biggest sale to companies is we want to tell them, how would you like to be able to offer a benefit to your employees at no cost to you, no administration? It's not going to involve you having to get somebody involved with HR or hire someone to do it. It's not going to cost you anything, but it's going to give your employees a benefit. That's kind of the pitch. Maybe get them listening and say, well, okay, I'm willing to listen about that. And then you can go on to explain. It can be for someone wanting to buy a house, someone wanting to sell a house, just needing information on moving, lending. It does have I don't mention, even though there is a shopping click where you can go and get, I don't even mention that because there are so many of those out there anyway. It's all web-based, so it doesn't even involve a lot of physical space or anything to take into a company. And it's all done even for you as the agent. Employee Homeview actually sets this up for you. All you have to do is get the in. If you go into a company and you speak to someone say, yes, I'm interested, we then connect them with Renita, and they actually set up how it's going to work for the company, and I'll go into that a little bit more. I'm going to kind of run through, like I said, this is an online platform. The benefit that you are offering them is if they want to buy or sell a house, the way it works, they will be connected and they're given a choice. What we have realized over the years of going into a company and trying to get them to work with a real estate company is they tend to fear when we point them in one direction. They fear some blowback on that if they're not giving their employees a choice. So what this program does, which is nice, is whether you're buying or selling a home, whether you're looking for a lender or a mover, they're going to give you choices. So if someone wants to use this benefit, they want to buy a house, they're going to be given 2 qualified realtors to consider. Same thing on the selling side. If they're looking at selling a house, they're going to be given 2 qualified, vetted realtors to speak to. If they want to look at a mover, there's actually, I think, a choice of 3 or 4 movers they could use and talk to. Lender, same situation. So it's all about giving, that's another good selling point. We're not pointing you in one direction where they say, well, you said we had to use this person. No, we're giving you a choice to use. So always when you're empowering someone, that's a good selling point also. People like to be in control. So we want to, approach those control freaks like me. So those are just some good stuff. Now, what is the benefit they're receiving? That's probably what the heck am I selling? They are going to receive, if they list or buy with one of these agents in the program, they get $5 for every, is it now 4? I'm sorry. As I said, I pulled up this program that I used from a couple years ago and a lot of my print from a couple years ago because our office is in the process of moving. So I was not able to create anything new and updated today. So thank you, Gita. It's now they get $4 for every $1,000 they spend. So it can, depending on the price point, that's a pretty decent.
The client gets that.
The client, the homeowner or the home buyer get a rebate. It happens after closing. So after closing, it's then processed and they will receive a rebate from Employee Homeview. So that also eliminates a lot of the legal issues that can be created. If you've ever seen some of these programs or realtors themselves are offering rebates, that can be really tricky legally because there's a lot that has to be done disclosure-wise and everything. And this is all being taken care of because it's a third-party company handling it. So that is the actual benefit. The movers, the lenders, they have all worked out little discount pricing, and they will learn that when they approach them. When they click and say, I want a mover, I want a lender, that kind of thing. They'll speak to them about what kind of benefits they'll be receiving. But the major benefit is the home buying, the home selling, and the $4 per $1,000 that they receive. So as I said, when we go in and you sell, the nicest is if it's a company of some size where they have an intranet kind of system or whether they communicate a lot with their employees by online, because Renita, Employee Homeview, can actually create a link for their website that will, it says, are you interested in buying or selling a home, need a lender or mover? Click here. It takes them to the website where they register online, and I'll go through the whole program, how it works. Let's go through. So this is kind of the suite, the services that they provide. It's personal moves. It cannot be a company. You can go into a company that provides relocation, and that's what my department works with. These are when you're talking about a company that is moving someone for a job and they're going to pay for them to move. This will not apply to those kind of people. If they're receiving corporate transfer benefits, they're not eligible for this program. And they don't need it because everything is being provided for them. But every company, the Eli Lillys, the Cummins, the Rolls Royces, these big companies that move people all the time, they still have a mass majority of their employees are never going to be transferred. Lilly has thousands and thousands of employees that are never going get those corporate benefits, but they're going to move. They're going to get married, they're going to have kids, or vice versa. They're going to get divorced, or they're going to, downsize. Those are all potential people. So don't be afraid of companies that sound big and, you think, oh, well, they're probably dealing with maybe official relocation benefits. They have a lot of employees that could still appreciate this kind of benefit. And in fact, we have Brad Braun here in Indianapolis, just happened to have a connection with a company called United Health Group. You may not recognize that name, but they have a lot of names under them. Insurance companies, they have over 90,000 employees. They're actually based out of, I think, New Jersey. He had some connection here that we got to sit down and talk to him about the program. And they said, you know what, we do have a little intranet thing that our employees log into that has all kinds of benefits. So they have benefits, with discount tires and car washes and things like that. So Brad was actually able to get Employee HomeView on their intranet system. And Brad has actually never had a local person. There's never been a United Health Group local referral, but they have people all over the United States. Every month, someone out there is buying or selling, and he's just getting these little benefit checks without ever knowing about it. It's just a nice little surprise that comes. And I'll go more into exactly what that means in your pocket in a little bit. So, I got a lot of trouble. So, like I said, it's mainly for people that are doing personal moves, not work related. Now, she has this listed in here. There are companies that are hiring and paying someone to move, but what they do, it's called lump sums or direct reimbursements. So that's just like I say, I would like you to come work for me, and I'll just give you $10,000. You figure it out. Those people would still be eligible to work with this. They can, so that kind of program. It's just the ones where they say, we're going to hook you up with an agent. We're going to pay your commissions. We're going to pay for the mover. When they're paying for everything up front, those are the people we can't work with on this kind of program. So this is more telling them who it benefits. So this is in case you want to use this kind of presentation when you speak to someone, and you let them know that it is a secure website. When they create it, they will create a specific link for each company. It will be secure because they do have to go online and register to use the benefit. So they want to make sure, security is always a big thing. And I think another really great selling point to this is what's called BeneFriends. So, any company, when you go into and say, hey, we have this great benefit, it's not like everyone's going to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm ready to buy and sell today. People it's not a decision. People I want to go out and buy a new shirt that's on sale. You're not going to find people that are buying and selling a home on a daily basis, even a weekly basis. So this is something that's going to be planted, and you've got to just keep that seed watered and growing until perhaps they are ready to use the benefit. But the nice thing is they can share the benefit. So once someone in that company goes online and registers, there is a little thing called BeneFriends. If they have someone anywhere in the United States, family, friends, whatever, that they think might want to consider this benefit or could use the benefit, they're buying, selling, downsizing, upsizing, whatever, they can actually share it. They can just put in the person's name and email, send it to them. That person will be going through the program, and you'll receive the benefit if you bring it into the company. So I think that's a really nice selling point. You say it's not just for your employees. They can actually share it with family and friends. Unlimited. So this just tells it more about, that it's all web-based, doesn't cost them anything. One site, they vet all of the people on the websites. Every real estate company that appears, they have a relationship with the lenders, the movers, etc. They actually have a live person that answers the phone that will speak to anybody that uses the program initially. It's easy to implement. Like I said, once they say, yeah, we'd be interested, Renita will work with the company to see how they want to do it. If they have an intranet, and get the website set up and operational for you. Again, the no cost. And I said, this PowerPoint I've eliminated a lot of slides, believe it or not, so you can tweak it however you want to make it work if you'd like to use it. I'm not going to I'm going to assume intelligence on most of your parts that you can read, so I'm not going to go through everything. The personal account, I do want to get through here and show you kind of what it will look like. Oops, sorry, pushing the wrong button. So this is kind of the home page they will see when you go to it. And then here is where they would initially sign up. It's just first name, last name, email is what it takes to register. Whoops, okay, sorry. And then it says, and then they'll take your first name, what do you want to do today? Buying, selling, lender, I want to move. It even has libraries of information, like maybe they're a first-time mover. There's even libraries of, how to get, things to be aware of, what you might want to know. So there's additional things. So then this is just, here's the benefriends I was telling you about in case they want to share it. If you want to go to the library, there's stuff on moving, real estate, current news, mortgage rates, etc. So there's a lot of things on one site. These are just all the different ways the screen can look. Well, that's 3 more. Okay. These are just all the different screens that you can possibly. Here you can see there's also, if the person ever has a question or a problem, they're very easy to contact. They can either do it online or there's always a phone number. And like I said, during business hours, there is a live person. Just more screens. Here it actually lines out whether you want to buy, whether you want to sell, and here it tells you. You're going to get an introductory call from the benefit consultant. Then you might want to request an agent. And that's when it's going to go to a screen and it will show you, depending on your area, it's going to show you 2 agents to pick from. Or request an agent to sell. Same thing, if they want a lender, it's going to show them, and as you can see, they even let us get our local lender. This was presented for Roche Diagnostics here in Indianapolis. So they actually allowed us to get our local people on their website. So they use some national lenders, and those may have changed along with that $4 thing. But they did allow us to get Riverwood Mortgage on there, and they even allowed us on the moving side, Plains and Hogan. Those are actually people we introduced them to. So you even have that ability. I would assume that option's probably still out there, that if you have personal relationships, you go into a company, I'd really love to have this mover on there. They're willing to do that. So, the vetted partners. Goodness. And for realtors, what they put up, they just call it the golden circle. It's not, like I said, since they're giving choices, they're not going to just put up the Berkshire Hathaway brand. But so you're probably thinking, okay, how is this going to benefit me? If you take it into a company and they have a local footprint, what's going to happen is anytime someone goes on and registers to buy or sell a home, and they're wanting to do that in your market area, you will be one of the choices that comes up. Now that lead is going to funnel through the relocation department simply because we have the relationship with Employee Homeview. So what's going to happen is that information is going to come to us and say, hey, we had someone from, Copy Mart that wants to talk to, they want to buy a home, and this is Linda's account. So, would you make sure she's aware and available, So, because you will already have a profile set up on their website. They just want to make sure you're available. You will pop up, and like I said, they always want to give them a choice, and another agent will pop up for them to choose from. So hopefully you will have the relationship. You'll be able to go in and you'll be able to speak very personally about that company. That's what will give you the advantage, because at that point you will know the home, you will know the HR. You're going to speak very intimately about the company. So that should hopefully give you the edge when you're competing to work with that agent. Obviously, if they choose to work with you, there is a referral fee, because something has to pay for their benefit, that rebate, and something has to pay for this whole setup of the website. So hold on, let me see how that works. Okay, so it's going to involve a 38% referral fee, all right? And that's what's going to pay for them receiving their money back and everything, and then the balance, that's between you and the company. I can't speak to that at all. Now, let's say it comes in and it is in your market area, but you're not available. So you're out of the country or something and they have to give it to somebody else. Let's see what we did. There's some sort of, you will still get something out of it. I'm not going to speak to it right now because I don't have that updated. Now let's say this is a nationwide company. Like I was speaking, Brad Braun got it into the United Health Group. So let's say it's somebody buying or selling out in Florida or whatever. The nicest part about that is no matter who they choose to work with, you're going to get something out of it as long as it goes to the closing table. How that is set up is it's a basic flat fee of $350. Now, if it's below, I forget what the price point level, it has to be above a certain price point level to receive the $350, and I forget what that breaking point is. But most of the time, if at least it hits that threshold, you'll receive a set fee of $350 when it closes, and they process those on a quarterly basis. So once a quarter, Employee HomeView sends me a report, and they said, here's how many closings we've had, and here's the amount of money that you're going to receive. And that you never knew it happened, you never had to be involved. That's the nicest part about it. And it will just continue. So what are the challenges to that is getting in the door with people, because I've been amazed that even though we're saying, would you like to offer your employees something for free? It is still hard to get past this brick wall of the HR department. That's what's nice if you have connections with maybe companies that are small, that they don't have a lot of the infrastructure that perhaps you can get in on. But God bless you if you have an in to the HR department, because they are really hard to speak to and get in on. So that's the first challenge. The next challenge is keeping it in front of them. Because like I said, it's not like the entire employment base is going to be ready to buy or sell a house this week. And maybe in 6 months when they are thinking about it, they will have forgotten. Or for me, it could be tomorrow. I can forget tomorrow that, oh yeah, somebody said that benefit was available. So the struggle is how do you keep it in front of the employees? So like I said, the nicest way is if it's a company that has some sort of intranet with the United Health Group, the nice thing is their employees are required to log on to the intranet. And that shows up every day when they log in on a day. That's something that's probably not going to happen ever for you. So you've got to find out a way to, can I come in and do a lunch and learn, or will they let you do a presentation? You're welcome to use the stand-up banner. I personally just created, like I said, Geeta created her own piece. I've created a couple, which those of you that are here, I'll send them with you, that I used to just hand out to people to keep it in front of them. If they have a bulletin board, if you can find, is there something I can post on a bulletin board? And if there's a way you could get back into the company, if it's local, obviously, on a quarterly basis, if they have a company newsletter that you can get it in on. Because that's the problem, is that people will forget. They might be introduced to it at the beginning, but over time they will forget. So it's just keeping it in front of them, making it aware it's out there is the biggest issue. But I think that's kind of the overview of it. Do you have any questions?
Sounds like a great program, Ann, for us to be able to, I talk with agents frequently who have sort of a corporate background and maybe wanting to get involved with companies. I've done in the past some business with smaller companies here in town where I helped them when they were bringing somebody in. I think this is a great way to get in the door for developing that kind of relationship with people. Yes, you pay a referral fee to Relo, but you're probably going to get in and hopefully get some business that you wouldn't have had a chance to get any other way, because it's people that you don't really know and they're not part of your sphere of influence. They're not expired listings, so it's just another way to do the business. Question for you, Ann, if you know the answer to this. When on the golden circle it shows realtors, and when somebody clicks on that, it's going to show you ideally, and then somebody else. Where does that someone else come from?
They are members, Employee HomeView, Renita, the CEO, they are members of an organization called ERC, Employee Relocation Council. It is an international organization that collects companies that move people, that works with companies that move people, third-party companies, the Lillys, the big companies, they outsource. When they have to move someone, they don't want to deal with it internally. They outsource us to these places called third-party companies. There's probably between 50 and 100 of them worldwide. They are all members, lenders, realtors, anyone involved with companies that move people are part of this ERC. It is the hugest organization in the world involved with moving people. The real estate companies are required to have relocation departments like Berkshire Hathaway has. They are required to have teams of trained agents, and that training has to be continuous. You have to reach certain levels. So it is all highly vetted companies and agents, and that's who they work with. So if it's a certain area, they are going to go to that ERC directory. They're going to see who is in that market area, and that's who they're going to work with. There's always going to be a caveat. We work with broker to brokers. There's always going to be an area that someone comes up with that is nowhere, and there are no ERC companies. So once in a while, our department even comes down to just Googling and trying to find a company that covers the area. But the majority of the time, they're going to be in areas that are covered by someone in this ERC membership.
That raises a good question. Since we've got some extra time, would you explain to everybody how, especially for you newer agents or agents who've been around for a while and maybe not done official relocation work, how does one become a part of that team to get relocation work, and to maybe, if you do a lot of this stuff, to become an ERC vetted person so that your name can come up when you are not specifically the person with a relationship with company X?
Well, relocation, as I said, came into existence in need because of all these companies used to do it in-house. I know when I started in the business, Lilly did it in-house. When they had somebody they wanted to move, you talked to Rose down in Indianapolis, the headquarters. But as they grow, and especially getting global, and you start dealing with immigration and legal issues like that, they realize we cannot devote, we're a drug company. We cannot devote a big section of our H&R working with immigration, making sure these people are doing things right and we're doing things right. So all these third-party companies started coming, hey, why don't we get into this business? And so they became the specialists with the legal and the immigration and the taxation issues. We'll take care of it for you. So now the Lillys, the Roches, the big companies, they just say, hey, Brookfield, hey, Serva, like I said, there's probably between 50 and 100 of these third-party companies. I've got somebody I need to move from A to B. Here they are. You work with them and take care of them. So then those third-party companies realize there is no way we can work with millions of realtors across the United States. That would be mind-boggling. We've got to get one point of contact. So they started looking for companies that had good coverage in market areas. And then they said, okay, you guys need to have a dedicated relocation department. So, and then that department needs to have a team of agents that cover your entire market area. They're going to be trained, experienced to work with these realtors. So that's why we came into being. And like I said, they require our agents to have a certain level of experience. So if you're a brand new agent, it's something you can work towards. They usually require at least you've been 2 or 3 years full time, and they want to see, certain level of production, consistent production. And then usually we consult with the broker managers of each office each year. Teams are usually chosen for a year at a time. And I speak to them at the end of the year saying, okay, here's who we have. Maybe we need to add, or maybe we need to downsize. Do you have any suggestions for agents we might want to bring on board? We have an application process. There's other ways that we can work agents in, especially if broker managers tell us, hey, you know what, we've got kind of up and coming person that I think is going to work out great. And like the Megan, I don't know, are you from this office? Okay. Like the Christy Haynes and Megan Wise, if you've heard those names, those two, when they were kind of brand new to the business, were recommended to us saying, you know what, these girls are great. You might want to check them out. And we started using them on some rental tours, things that don't require all that level of experience and things. But we have a confidence level. They've done broker to broker referrals. As I said, we not only deal with corporate transfers, we also deal with companies throughout the United States that are moving people either to our market areas or away from our market areas. Now, they want us to obviously connect them with an agent that will do a great job, but again, the requirements are not quite as stiff. So that's another great way. If we're told by your broker manager that, hey, I think this is somebody that you should work into your system, we'll kind of bring you on board to start working with maybe rental tours, broker to brokers, kind of test the market for both, see whether you like us and whether we like you, kind of thing, and see how it goes. And now both those agents have worked out great, and they're doing an awesome job. So it's something you kind of have to work for, especially if you're a brand new, inexperienced agent. But we love hearing about it and bringing you on.
Can you address the rental tours and if there is any compensation for that?
The rental tours.
If you'll repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gita asked if I could explain a little bit more about how rental tours can work and whether they're compensated. We're working towards getting more and more of them compensated. Eli Lilly is one that asks us to do rental tours for no cost. And the reason we say okay is because of the volume of business we get. And, I encourage you, if you're here in Indy, ask Christy Haynes about those free rental tours she did, because I can't tell you how many of them, after their lease expired or whatever, realtors, it's all about staying in contact and staying fresh in their minds. She stayed in contact with all those people she put into apartments and condos. I can't tell you how many of them have now called her back because they're at a point where they've said, yeah, you know what, I'm staying here, I'm ready to buy. So she, even though she expended time for free up front, she now got them as a buyer when they decided to buy. And those were not referrals. Those were people that lived here. She didn't pay a referral fee. She didn't pay anything to us. They just became a buyer. So there's great opportunities. Now, we do have many that will do paid rental tours. And that fee can vary. It's usually one full day. Our mark is usually $600. Our department only takes 25 of it. So there are many times that rental tours have an opportunity to be compensated. Now, rental tours also include, and we kind of have an outline of, if you're new at it, we kind of have an outline of expectations, especially if they're new to the area. You're doing an area tour also. So many times the companies have an expectation of, they want you to kind of introduce them to the city, particularly if they're companies that are downtown. Don't just send them to Fishers or Carmel. They want to make sure they have an overall view of the city. Hey, if you're downtown Lilly, you can easily work, live in Greenwood, Greenfield, Plainfield, or Carmel. And you might get a lot more for your money somewhere else, even though everybody downtown at Lilly is going to tell you, you need to be in Fishers or Carmel. So, there's always those little pocket areas that people love to send.
Great point. For you newer agents, I always recommend that you consider an opportunity to show somebody a rental, whether it's directly from a sign call or through a program like this or through Relo, as one of the best marketing opportunities you'll ever have. Because the key is to get in front of people. Here's a chance to get in front of people in your car looking at real estate. I've had a situation where I've told this story before. Some people called me on a sign call, moving here from St. Louis a few years ago. I talked to them. They knew about the real estate business. The woman was a mortgage broker. And I said I would devote 2 hours to them and show them 4 houses on a Saturday morning. We went out together. They didn't rent one of those. They called me the next day. They went on their own to someplace, signed a lease with somebody. They sent me a check for $200 because they appreciated my time and they understand how that works. A year later, when the lease expired, I helped them buy a $250,000 house in Carmel. And then within 6 months after that, the fellow had joined one of our competitors and was working in the Avon office for one of our competitors. And the wife's parents moved here from Vermont. Guess who they referred the business to? To me. So, you develop these relationships. So the chance to show somebody for free rentals, boy, for you newer agents, jump all over that. You get face to face with somebody. Another thing to keep in mind with regard to relocation and keeping in touch with people, somebody moves out of town, you've lost touch with a college friend or whatever, they've moved to California or something. Boy, oh boy, reconnect with those people. I've told this story before too. Friends of ours when we lived in Washington, D.C., we've been here for 20 years. We've kept in touch with these people. Last year, they were selling a house in Pasadena, California that they had bought for their daughter when she worked for Mattel out there for a while. She was riffed, moved to Atlanta. Guess who referred their house? And guess who got a nice check for a $1.1 million referral fee from a Berkshire Hathaway agent through relocation for 25% of a 3% commission on a $1.1 million. You can do the math on that. So keep in touch with people and ask them to refer you and keep you in mind that you can help them with their real estate problems.
Yeah, particularly like David said. And don't think locally.
Yes.
Especially for these thank you for mentioning outbound referrals.
Yes.
Since I have a captive audience. We can help anyone buying or selling a home in the United States. So don't ever think locally. A gentleman I met at a convention one time, he usually has, he said between 100 and 150 outbound referrals working at any time, because he was the kind of guy, he was from Southern Louisiana. He struck up conversations all the time. And he never started with what he did. He started just asking them, what are you in a grocery store line, sitting on a bus, sitting at dinner, waitresses and whatever. He just struck up conversation. Hey, how are you? What do you do? Da, 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 da. To the point where eventually he said, well, what do you do? They would ask him, what do you do? And he says, I do real estate. I help people buy and sell homes all over the United States. He never limited himself to Louisiana. So they would say, and he traveled a lot. So most of the time he wasn't in his hometown. So he had tons of people, waitresses and stuff. We are thinking about buying a house. He's like, well, can I connect you with somebody that can help you? He had outbounds all the time. So we can do that for you. You don't have to be able to know who's going to be a great realtor in Portland, Oregon. Contact us. We have that network I talked about with ERC. We will contact the same person that does my job out in Portland or wherever and say, hey, can you help this person buy or sell a home? And how that works is that when that sells, they pay 25% of their commission earned back to you. We only charge, based on what you receive, between $50 and $150 to do that for you. You give us their information, we're going to connect them to somebody good, we're going to monitor it, and we're going to get that check for you. And it'll either be, if it's $1,000 or less, we're only going to charge $50. If it's between $1,000 and $2,000, we'll charge $100. If it's over that, we charge $150. But like I said, we have seen these big sales going to Florida and everywhere where they're getting referral checks for $9,000 and $10,000 just for giving us a name and connecting them with someone great.
Also do referrals within the office, in the sense if you have a buyer or a seller in another area that you cannot service that area because it's too far or you're not a member of the MIBOR, you can go through and refer it out to another agent.
Yes.
And then, I just did one.
Right.
You make it nice.
Right.
Gita just confirmed that when you have a friend or working with somebody who's looking to buy a property someplace else, maybe a vacation home or something, it's an area that you don't serve, just call up Ann and it'll refer them out. And I'm going to, on the story that I talked about with the Pasadena house, I'm going to tell a story that you can tell me whether I should or should not have done this from relocation situation. Because these were good friends of ours that we still keep in touch with, I told them that I would contact our company, the Berkshire Hathaway company in Southern California, there in Pasadena. I located the broker, called and talked to the managing broker, a woman, I don't remember her name, told her about my friends, what they were looking to do, asked her to recommend somebody to handle this relocation. She talked to a couple of agents. That agent then called me. We chatted. So I could then tell my client that I've talked with the managing broker who recommended somebody, and I then have talked with them and told them about you, your family, your needs, your goals, et cetera, et cetera. And then I give all that information to Ann, including that agent. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable.
So you can actually further that service for your friends and clients by talking to somebody, and it just cements that relationship with them. Gita.
The other way to do the same thing is how we did in Connecticut.
Yes.
So I sent a referral through her. She has a pool of agents that are already vetted. So she, the relocation department in Connecticut already knows whom to give that referral to for that area. So that's the expert in that area. Once they chose an agent, I told Anne, please have that agent call me.
Yes.
Once they, before they contact my client. I spoke with her, I vetted her out.
Yes.
And then I called my client and said, I have spoken with this agent. She seems to know, she really knows her area. I spoke, she comes recommended by her company, by my relocation department. I trust her for you to deal with her. So now, and that's what, I mean, I'm giving a referral out. When I tell somebody, why don't you let me find you an agent? That is what I say to them. Because if you go on your own and find an agent, you won't know who they are and how good they are. But when I send somebody to you, I will make sure that they are vetted out, that they are experts in that area, they have experience, and that they will take care of you. The second part of that is that I am going to be on their case, and they will know I'm going to be on their case. And people always respond better when they have someone to report to, and they will be reporting to me, and I will keep on their case. And I do that every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'll put it in my calendar to call that agent and say, what's going on now? Because I don't want to be harassing my customer all the time. I want to know when they put their house on the market. It's a $1.7 million house in Connecticut. But although I speak to my friend every day or every week, I'm not going to ask her, what are you doing about your house every day? So I go through the agent to find out, okay, now you need to do this. Now you need to follow up. Now you need to send her a letter, handwritten note. And through that, I will control the sale.
Yeah, so Geeta was just pointing out, it's really your level, your relationship with that client. Is it someone you just knew, friend of a friend? Then you're probably not going to go to that level. But if it's a relative and you want to be way more involved, I mean, I have James Junkins here. What he likes to do is he says, here's what I've got. He wants me to contact the reload director, get some recommended agents. He likes to interview them. Then he says, here's who I like. Then I go back to the reload director and say, okay, here's who we want to use. So you can be as involved as you want or not involved at all. You can turn it over to us. We will always provide the information of who the agent is. You will have their contact information. We send out update requests on a regular basis. Any response we get, we will forward to you, but you are always welcome to communicate, like Geeta said, directly with that agent. Because I agree, when you're bugging your client, it's almost like, am I going to get that check soon? That's how it comes across. You don't want it to look like, oh, come on, get to the closing table. So check with the agent to see what's going on.
Those of you out there in Radio Land may not have been able, from my own experience, to hear what Geeta said. Geeta basically said that as opposed to what I did was call a managing broker directly and talk with her and then ask her to recommend somebody. What Geeta said, and the more typical approach would probably be to talk to relocation, have them contact that person and recommend some agents. And then what Geeta did, similar to what just Ann just said, get a list of 2 or 3 agents through relocation, and then you can call them yourselves. I love the idea, again, as Ann just said, if it's a close friend or somebody, as opposed to just an acquaintance who's a referral from a referral, if it's a close friend like these people of ours in D.C., you want to be able to talk with those agents and you then recommend one. And then Geeta also mentioned that something that I'd forgotten, she kept in touch with that agent, in her case in Connecticut, and keeps in touch with them, asking them what's going on so that she can then communicate with her friends, the referral client, and let them know what's going on, as opposed to having to call and ask them what's going on. And as Ann said, just sort of making that sort of appear like you're saying, where's my check? Where's my check? Where's my check? And that caused me to remember that actually the agent in Pasadena called me because in one of our updates, she was recommending a price reduction, and my clients, my friends, her clients, were not willing to do it. And so I called them and talked about it and walked them through and basically got them to accept her recommendation. It wasn't my recommendation, but they asked me a lot of questions they probably should have asked her but didn't. And so I actually helped with the transaction, and you may be able to do that too. So that got that big check in my pocket sooner. And it made my clients, my friends, happy to know that they trusted me and knew me, and that I was plugged into the process as well. So you can do that very well with these. So it's a great way to make some additional money with a lot less work.
Yeah, and another benefit of going through the reload department is some accountability. And if an issue ever did come up between your clients and that agent, like suddenly they're saying, he's not communicating, I don't know, they're uncomfortable, one phone call, we get them reassigned. So, that we'll handle that. We find out from them or from you that you heard something, that something's not right. We go to that reload director and say, this isn't working, they need to be reassigned, and boom, they'll reassign them. And we want to make sure that they're happy. And the accountability part is we send paperwork, we get it signed, you're going to get that check. Versus placing it yourself, sometimes we've had some really bad experiences where they didn't get something signed and the check never made it. So,
Any other questions from anybody out there in Radio Land? I don't see any typed messages in there. So if there's no other questions, thanks everybody. Another little arrow in your quiver or tool in your toolkit, relocation, outbound things in this whole approach with this Affinity program. I love the idea of that. I wish we'd had this when I was doing more work trying to get in the door with small and medium-sized companies. So this is great. Thank you so much, Ann. Appreciate it. We will end the recording here, and then we will put this up on the YouTube channel. Thanks again, everybody.